Anchoring is usually free from port dues, but do not forget the DURs, if you are in Trinidad and Tobago on a commercial vessel. Pilot books, local charts and notices to mariners may identify places which offer good holding or have any seasonal, geographical or special anchorage restrictions in place. Anchorage areas around ports are usually indicated on the chart. When approaching an anchorage, it is important to consider the swinging circle of vessels already at anchor as well as where the anchors and anchor chains are lying. Some anchorages are reserved for deep water or deep draft vessels. The swinging circle of and the scope of chain used by large ships here make it unsuitable for small vessels. Anchorages could be reserved for other types of vessels, for example, yachts. Look carefully at the chart extract. We have exaggerated the thickness of the limits of the anchorages off the port of point leases. Away from ports, you can anchor nearly anywhere so long as you are not getting in anyone's way and you have checked that there are no seabed obstructions and the holding ground is adequate. Sometimes the symbol on the chart indicates explicitly that anchoring is not allowed. Here are two do not anchor symbols on a chart of the Boca de Manos or First Boca. This is understandable as there is a military base east of Titiron Bay. Chart symbols also show us submarine features that are a hazard to anchoring by fouling the anchor or the anchor chain. Submarine cables are a hazard to anchoring. A chart symbol for submarine cables is shown here. Here is a chart extract showing the location of submarine cables in the Boca de Manos. Chart symbols also show us submarine features that are a hazard to anchoring by fouling the anchor or the anchor chain. Submarine pipelines are a hazard to anchoring. A chart symbol for submarine pipelines is shown here. Here is a chart extract showing the location of submarine pipelines in the Soldado oil field. Here are some chart symbols for wrecks, rocks and reefs. Spoil area refers to an area where dredged material is dumped. The seabed will be loose in this area and could contain debris from the dredged area. Areas with these symbols should be avoided when anchoring. Do not anchor in a navigational channel or near the entrance of a navigational channel. There is a wide range of seabed material that play a vital part of your anchor's holding capacity. One type of anchor is inadequate for all conditions. Different types of anchors are usually needed for different bottom classifications such as rock, coral, gravel, seaweed, sand or mud. An anchor designed for a specific purpose may not be so good under different circumstances. For example, a rock grapnel may not be too good in soft mud and a CQR anchor may not perform in seaweed so well as an Admiralty pattern type. The chart extract shows some of the seabed material in the Serpent's Mouth. Within each class of bottom there are many degrees of variance. Under seaweed, for instance, the type and amount of weed can be important. The cohesiveness of the sand, mud or clay has affect the anchor's holding ability. The chart extract shows some of the seabed material off the Carnage coast. The ship relies on the weight of cable lying on the seabed to keep the pull on the anchor horizontal. The length of cable used between the anchor and the vessel is called the scope. The commonly accepted ratio of the length of cable paid out to the depth of water, scope, is usually 5 or 6 times the depth of water. When selecting a position for anchoring, two of the factors are the length of anchor cable available and the depth of water. The water depth is taken from the soundings on the nautical chart. Let's continue looking at the vessel anchored in 10 meters of water and using a scope of 10 times 5, 50 meters. On the flood tide, the vessel is lying 50 meters west of the anchor. On the ebb tide, she is lying 50 meters east of the anchor and 100 meters away from where she was a few hours before. The position selected for anchoring has to allow for a swinging circle that relates to the scope. It is important to be able to discern a change in the ship's position due to changing tidal current and one due to the anchor dragging along the seabed. While we are considering swinging circle, we expect similar vessels to lie in the same direction in the anchorage. Similarly, we expect them to swing in the same direction and at the same rate when the tidal current is changing from flooding to ebbing. This diagram shows the vessels closer together than advisable but shows how the vessels interact when they swing. When selecting a position to anchor the vessel, always make sure you have a good look at the chart to check that there are no obstructions on the seabed. Check the chart for any submarine cables or pipelines. Check there will be sufficient depth of water at all levels of tide. Check the nature of the seabed to see if it is good holding ground. Check if the anchor position is easily accessible. Check if there will be sufficient swinging room for your vessel and other vessels. Check if the anchor position provides shelter from the prevailing and expected winds. Check if there are any storms forecast. Initially, an anchorage might provide adequate shelter from the present wind direction, but it may be affected by a swell,